The snow outside the Park Avenue penthouse fell in slow, lazy spirals, the kind that made New York look softer than it really was. But inside, behind the floor-to-ceiling windows and the quiet hum of a $15,000 air filtration system, violence cracked through the silence like a gunshot. "Hannah, stop lying to me." Chase Whitford's voice wasn't raised, but it carried the sharpness of a blade. He stood in the center of the marble living room, still wearing his tailored charcoal coat, the smell of expensive cologne clinging to him like a warning. His eyes, cold, steely, always calculating, burned with a rage she could never predict. Hannah Whitford, 7 months pregnant, pressed a trembling hand against her belly, as if shielding the life inside could somehow shield her too. "Chase, I told you I wasn't meeting anyone. It was just a double shift. They needed help in ER. Doesness." He stepped closer, too close. His breath was warm, but his presence froze her. "You think I'm stupid?" he hissed. "My own wife sneaking around like some—" Her back hit the edge of the marble island, the lights above her blurred. She felt the baby shift, a small fluttering panic beneath her ribs. "Chase, please," she whispered. "I'm tired. I didn't do anything." But Chase didn't want truth. He wanted control. His hand curled into a fist, not to strike, but to grab her arm so hard the bones underneath screamed. She gasped, stumbling. The world lurched. "Let go. You're hurting me." "You've been hurting me for months," he snapped. "Do you have any idea what people would say if they knew my wife was out at all hours? What that does to my reputation?" He shoved her. It wasn't even a hard shove, just hard enough. Hannah's foot slipped on the glossy marble. Her balance, already fragile, vanished. The last thing she saw was the chandelier fracturing into 1,000 glittering pieces as she fell backward. Her head struck the floor with a sound that didn't belong in a home filled with luxury. Silence. Chase froze. His chest heaved. His eyes widened, not with guilt but with fear. Not fear for her. Fear for himself. He stepped forward, reached out, and then pulled his hand back. The security camera in the corner blinked red, recording everything. And that was the moment Chase Whitford realized he had just destroyed his own life. Long before the penthouse lights reflected off the marble floors where she now lay unconscious, Hannah Whitford was simply Hannah Hale, a girl who learned to grow strong in the softest and hardest ways. She wasn't born into wealth or cold glass towers overlooking Manhattan. Her world was smaller, quieter white fences, creaking porch steps, and the warm hum of a small Montana town where people still held doors open and remembered your birthday without needing a reminder on their phone. Her mother had died early, taken by a sudden heart condition that no doctor could have stopped. Her father passed 5 years later, leaving Hannah and her 2 older brothers, Logan and Marcus, to hold what remained of their family together. Logan, the protector, Marcus, the thinker, and Hannah, the glue that kept them from falling apart when grief came knocking again and again. Even as a child, she had a calmness about her, a gentleness that made people open up. She was the girl who sat with a bullied classmate during lunch, the teenager who spent weekends volunteering at the local senior home, the young woman who believed doing the right thing always mattered even when no one noticed. That belief carried her into the medical field. She worked night shifts, juggling classes and exhaustion, pushing herself until she earned a full-time position as an emergency response coordinator at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. The chaos didn't faze her. She thrived in it. Helping people reminded her she still had something left to give the world. She lived modestly, saved every dollar, rarely splurged. Her biggest luxury was a second-hand Kindle and a cup of caramel latte from a nearby Starbucks after a 12-hour shift. Life was simple, but it was hers. And she treasured it. Then Chase Whitford walked into her life like a storm disguised as sunshine. He was charming in the beginning, charming in a way that made her believe she had stepped into someone else's movie. He brought flowers to the hospital during her breaks, waited outside in the cold to walk her home, and treated her like she was the only person in a city of 8 million. He spoke softly but confidently, always with a promise woven between his words. "You deserve more than this life, Hannah," he had told her, brushing a stray curl from her cheek. "Let me take care of you." Her brothers were wary, but Hannah, who wanted so desperately to believe in a love that didn't hurt, fell for the version of Chase he let her see. The wedding came quickly, a small ceremony on a rooftop terrace Chase rented for one night. There were lights strung overhead, soft music, and a future that felt full and safe. But the real Chase emerged slowly. First came the comments. Why do you work so much? Why do you need friends? Then the restrictions. Maybe it's better if I handle our finances. Maybe you should quit, you don't need the stress. Then the isolation. New phone, new rules, new boundaries she never agreed to. Hannah told herself it was temporary, that stress made people say things they didn't mean. But the knots in her stomach didn't lie. When she found out she was pregnant, she prayed the baby would bring out the man she once loved, the man she thought he was. She was wrong. And the night she fell on the marble floor was not the beginning of Chase's darkness. It was the moment his darkness finally swallowed the last of her hope. And while Hannah lay unconscious in the hospital, her brothers were already on a plane to New York, ready to wage a war Chase Whitford never saw coming. New York had a way of swallowing people whole, but for Hannah, the city had always been a strange mixture of wonder and quiet dread. When she first arrived for her job at Mount Sinai, she saw the city the way tourists did, alive, electric, full of possibility. But after marrying Chase Whitford, her world shifted from sidewalks and subway stations to a rarefied air she never asked to breathe. Chase lived at the top of a glass tower on Park Avenue, a penthouse built for someone who loved being seen. The place wasn't a home, it was a stage. White marble floors, a suspended staircase, curated art pieces lit by spotlights, and a view of Manhattan that made guests whisper in awe. Every corner smelled of wealth, of imported wood, designer candles, and the faint metal tang of money being counted somewhere far away. But beneath the surface shimmer, the space was cold, too pristine, too perfect. Nothing out of place, nothing soft, nothing that felt like it belonged to her. Even the bedroom looked staged, with its crisp white linens and sterile lighting. It was the kind of place where you had to watch your breath, afraid it might fog the glass. Chase loved it that way. "This is what success looks like," he would say, as he straightened a vase or adjusted a painting by a French artist Hannah had never heard